Welcome to the MBK Lounge Show. I'm your host, Greg Nicholson. And listen, if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm on the other side of the chair. I'm saying that up front because if you're a regular, that's the first thing I would have thought. But there's a reason for it. And this show is going to be a little bit different, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But I've done a couple of seasons, and one of the things that I've heard along the way is, what's your show about? How did it start? Why are you doing this? And I'm sure there's some of you out there that are saying, who is this guy? So I finally decided that I need to do a show where I flip it. I am your host, but I'm also your guest, or actually the guest. And that's totally different. But what I hope happens is you get a better feel for what this show is about and all the things that I just talked about. So obviously I have to have somebody that I always say that I talk to have the conversation. So I have to have somebody that's going to talk to me about this conversation. So let me pull in the host or guest.
I'm the guest host.
The guest host. There you go. Thanks. So the guest host, Chris Booth. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man?
What's happening? So here's the thing. I normally introduce my guest, but the guest host, who has been on the show before.
I've been here before.
To tell your story about, raising a family and the whole being a lawyer and writing short films. So if you haven't seen it, go back and see it. But now you're the guest host, man. So I'm gonna give it to you, and then you do your.
I can tell you almost tried to interview me again.
I have. I gotta just turn it all off.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm glad that you had the confidence in me to sit on your side of the couch.
Yeah.
And ask you questions.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because you have your own story to tell. So, before we get started, how does it feel to be sitting there instead of right here?
It feels odd.
Mm-hmm.
I actually am fighting the urge to ask you questions.
I can tell.
I already almost started a few moments ago to ask you a question. I'm thinking that's not my role here.
Mm-hmm.
My role here is this whole show came about. It actually came about, especially when we got to the point where you are going to be the guest host. It was the culmination of everybody who was saying to me the things I talked about earlier.
Right.
And you were one of those people. And it's like, hey, man, this is an opportunity for people to get to know you. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay. And it's just odd. I'm not used to sitting over here.
Well, I mean, you've interviewed a lot of different kind of people.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I thought is very interesting about your show is that you ask very deep questions. You're a deep listener. It shows vulnerability, and you're a natural, curious person.
Mm-hmm.
And so now sitting here and having to answer questions instead of ask questions, I think hopefully it provides some kind of perspective on your guest and you. Right? So before we get started, what made you start this podcast in the first place?
So there's so many layers to this. So I'm going to try to just answer the immediate question, which is, how did it start? At the church I go to, Seeds of Greatness, shout out to Seeds of Greatness, I don't know, about 12, 15 years ago, maybe even longer. Oh my goodness. We were shooting commercials for the My Brother's Keeper ministry. So
which is MBK, right?
Yes.
My Brother's Keeper.
My Brother's Keeper. And then we were filming at the actual conferences. And while at the conferences, I was asked to interview the guys and what they thought about the conference, what have you. And I remember I was interviewing someone and there was a chair nearby. And the people that were filming with me, we started to joke around and say, hey, you know what, we should turn this into a show. And I was like, yeah. And I could call it The Lounge because there's a chair right there.
Right.
And that literally was the beginning of how this show started.
Well, that's how the show started, but your curiosity, and there had been something in you to say, I think I can ask people questions. I think I can have a show in the first place. I mean, so before all of that, tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got to this point.
So, very good question. There is a before.
Yeah.
I think, I've been in sales all my life. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in sales when I was in elementary school, right? But you get my point. In my
You're
work
probably
life,
selling something.
Right.
We're always selling something, right?
True. I've been in sales, and over time, what I realized was I've always been interested in stories, the art of storytelling, mm-hmm. and then along the way, I realized I was interested in other people's stories and the way they told stories, and so that was there. I also realized in what I do, the most successful people possess, being curious, like wanting to know more and to understand. And I realized at some point that was something that I innately had, mm-hmm. and even in my career, I tried to help people develop that.
When you say you innately had, is that something that you felt growing up?
I did.
Having curiosity in people and asking questions.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I'm someone who's curious about things in general, especially the things I'm interested in. So, but definitely people. And it's funny, as I look back, I don't know if I knew it then. But I've always been curious about people and what they do and how they do, and even certain topics. I mean, curiosity is, I think, at the root of what I do for a living, but it's not just encapsulated there. I think curiosity makes you want to understand and know things. And for me, it's been about people, because I'm in a people business.
Right.
In sales, it's all about people. Mm-hmm. And this is a forum that gives me that place to do it. But there's also other things that made this all come together beyond just the curiosity.
Like what?
Well, good question. Like someone can say, well, I'm curious that I want to do a show. So a few minutes ago, I said there were layers around how this all came about. Yeah. So I have always been interested in movies and film and watching television, but it wasn't just about the story of the show. It was the angles, the how they shot it, the cinematography. And I actually thought that was something that I wanted to do specifically. And to be quite honest, I think I sort of do, not like you, but I think that somewhere along the way, the curiosity around people and shooting and angles, like my wife said to me, like, why don't you just start your podcast with one camera? You could use your phone. I was like, no, I always knew I wanted to have certain angles on the show. So
has it always been a podcast that you were interested in doing, or we've talked about short stories, and you talked about, you're talking about television. Have you thought about other forms of telling stories besides a podcast?
Man, it's like you're in my head. So, yes. I think the podcast came about because that was the pathway I believe that God really had for me. I think the reason why I was with those guys in that moment, interviewing them, that was when I was supposed to find out that, hey, you're curious and maybe you do like movies and stuff, but really your whole life is people business, and your curiosity is really supposed to be in this forum. And even then, I didn't know yet. But not long after those moments, that's how the show came about. But your question around other stuff, that's what Pitbull Faith Entertainment is all
so
about.
We got to ask you about, you have your Pitbull Faith Entertainment shirt on.
Yes.
So how did that come about, and how is it related to MBK Lounge?
So, so this came about, this was part of the before. Before all of this, I was sitting in church, and actually my pastor, shout out to Pastor Jerome, he actually said something around having pit bull faith. At that time, I didn't, it was just something that he had said, but it resonated with me and never left. And
so what does that mean, pit bull faith? Because it's not like poodle faith.
No.
Right?
No.
So pit bull has a certain kind of connotation.
It does. Good question. What it is when you think about having faith in something, that's one part. But pit bull faith, if you think about a pit bull, it never lets go.
Okay.
And because it never lets, so for me, pit bull faith resonated because it was what has helped me decide to do what we're doing right now, because this is a big deal for me to be sitting here talking with people, putting my life out there,
right,
believing that I could do it, believing that someone will watch, believing that people will care, believing that I could do it. And then pit bull faith is important because there's more that I want to do. So it wasn't just the podcast. What I didn't know was this is just the beginning of the other stuff that I want to do. So I can't say everything that I want to do, right? But
well, I mean, generally, you know, I mean, you don't have to get into specifics like I'm going to have an episode about this.
Yeah.
But in terms of your vision for Pit Bull Faith Entertainment, what do you see?
So it will be completely different kinds of shows.
Okay.
Where it's always going to be people. But this is where maybe I engage people in a format where I'm sitting down and talking to them like I'm doing with My Brother's Keeper, which is a show about men and helping us, you know, live our purpose and be better at what we do. But I want to do other shows that speak to some of the other things that I'm very interested in entertainment, whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's just other things.
Okay.
But it's always going to be people based. So I think that should be enough to I could tell you about it, but without giving it all
I mean, you don't want to give it away.
No.
But you know what I'm hearing is that, and from what I've seen from your shows, is that there is a risk taking to you, right?
Yeah.
And to put that with Pitbull, you know, I guess once you have some kind of concept in your mind, you really follow through on it.
Well, yes and no, because it took me a long time to get here. So if people go out,
you're a busy guy,
and that's I'm busy, and I don't have a patent on it, but I'm also. There's so many people. So if you go out on YouTube, you actually can find the original My Brother's Keeper or MBK Lounge, right? So that was when I was doing it. Our church had a channel called Siege TV at the time, and I was doing it then. And that was kind of like my first. I put my toe in the water, and then I stopped. That was around 2018, I think, and. You know, 3 kids, job, whatever, and just not knowing if I wanted to do it. And this was like before podcasts and probably podcasts. They were just shows maybe on YouTube. And I got real busy, but again, the whole pit bull faith was like...
Wouldn't let go. So now everybody's doing these shows. There's 8 million things out there. And it was like, well, why am I going to do it? Like, why? Who do I think I am? That's kind of what I had to overcome. The hesitation of doing it, and I finally realized that my passion to do this show, to do it on my own, no longer. It just was a big deal. Again, who's going to watch? Who cares? How you going to fit it in? Pitbull faith. I mean, so it's one thing to have curiosity, right? But it's another thing to fit that passion into everything else that you have to do. Like, you know, you're a busy guy at work. Obviously, you have a family. So how do you fit it in? I mean, there's only so many hours in a day, right? So how do you fit in doing this? I know you travel for work. You know, and you travel leisurely, but how do you fit this into your life?
You know what I found? That when you know that you know what you want to do, it's funny. You just find time for
Yeah.
it. My wife is going to be watching. She's going to be thinking, there's some things you need to be finding the time to do. Find the time to do. But it's not work. Like when I stay up late to read on a topic, to develop topics, to find the people that I want to interview, and I'm writing, doing the research that I need to do. I mean, if I could burn the midnight the oil for my job or even for my family, I fundamentally believe that this life is not just about everybody else. Mm-hmm. I can fit in time for me, especially if I believe that what I'm doing could maybe help somebody else. So I just do it. I wake up early anyway. I stay up late anyway. So maybe I need to turn something else off.
So, I mean, it is a passion, but, you talked about how Pitbull Faith Entertainment came about.
Yeah.
You're in church. There was a sermon. It sounds like this is almost like your ministry.
I'm chuckling because you're right. Mm-hmm. It is a ministry. I think what I hope people get out of this is everybody doesn't have to be in the pulpit. Everybody doesn't even have to do a show, right? I mean, there's so many ways that you can do what you do, but I think when I think of men being the head of households and the importance of our role, because if we can get it right as men, I think a lot of the stuff that's going to the left, or when I say left, like just going off the tracks, can be solved by just being more present. And Chris, I never, ever, ever prior to this saw what I just said. Like I didn't know that I was going to be doing something specifically for men and talking to them and then trying to include people that care about men and kind of see it.
So let's kind of shift to that, because MBK Lounge, I know you have a lot of other things that you want to get into with Pitbull Entertainment, but you started off with MBK Lounge.
Yeah.
And MBK Lounge focuses on men's issues, right?
Yeah.
In a very, very direct way.
Yes.
Right? And so obviously, we all know that men's issues are important, and a lot of times we don't want to talk about men's issues. Mm-hmm. So I understand that's probably part of it, but was there something that occurred in your life or somebody else's life that sparked you to say, we need to drill down on this and focus in on men's issues, and this is what my initial podcast is going to be about?
That's a good question, because I think I'm getting goosebumps because I think about my father and what he meant to me in my life, right? Having that example and knowing even when I was growing up that everybody didn't have him or a father figure.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know all of what that would mean. And I think when I was in that moment, and though it may seem fleeting that I was standing there with a mic interviewing the guys, and we were joking around, it didn't happen a week later. I mean, there was a lot of time that went by, but I think I realized that, hey, I enjoy doing that, and I think, and I believe that I could help men, because you said a few minutes ago, like, we don't want to talk about nothing. Everything is we don't think we can share. We don't want to be vulnerable.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I have a certain amount of that too. And I had a really good father figure. And I'm like, and I enjoy what I'm doing. And I'm saying to myself, like, why are we like that? You know what I mean? That's the curiosity piece. So I'm going, I think I want to do this.
So you mentioned your father. And this conversation is just flowing, right? So, do you think your father, some kind of way, has influenced your thinking about or encouraged you in some kind of way, or your experience with your father, to have this kind of discussion?
You know what? I don't know, but what I can tell you is the stuff that he instilled in me.
Like what?
Like my responsibility to the house and my family.
Okay.
Listen, he would say, Greg, you got to have a job. That was his thing. He's like, you have to take care of your household, number one. Number two, he was really big on take care of your mother. What he was saying was, take care of your wife. And he because I'm a kid, so he's like, yo, always make sure your mother's okay. Always make sure she's doing all right. And he was just instilling me the responsibility of a man. And then he showed what love looked like with my mom, and he raised me with certain disciplines. And so he wasn't saying it to say, hey, you're going to one day, but he was instilling in me as best he could. Plus, going to church and learning what God, how he designed it, like all of that. It's so direct and indirect all at the same time. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, I didn't do everything he wanted me to do. I still don't know. I'm work in progress. Yes. But I know that everybody didn't have that. And I think when I think about the experiences, so then I go out into the world, I go to school, I work with people, and you see some of the brokenness, some of the issues that people have.
Right.
But again, I didn't know I was going to do this, but it creates a certain amount of curiosity to understand men especially, and then try to, through those stories, help them help all of us.
But you have to have, and you have this, because the way you ask questions, you're a natural people person. You're a natural person to ask questions without probing too much and making the guest feel like, oh, he's trying to be my therapist or something. I mean, you're really good at that.
I appreciate that.
But, that vulnerability and that is vulnerability, but it's security. And it sounds like you have security from having a very strong relationship with your father, who kind of paved the road for you to show you what you need to do, right? How do you think he would feel about your show today?
So, 1 second.
Sure.
I think he would be excited for me. I think that he would appreciate what I'm doing. I think he would be proud. I think that because I would like to believe that what I'm doing is a reflection of what he hoped that I would be and become. And the fact that I'm doing something like this, I think that he would think it was pretty cool, even though he wasn't like a techie kind of web kind of internet guy. I think that I think he would be pleased. I do.
I think he would be too. And just to let you in a little secret, in preparation for this interview, one of the things that we had talked about for this show was how asking questions can reveal things about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because our relationships, our family, are mirrors to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so what I thought I would do was to ask some people who are close to you questions that I could ask you. And so that question about your father, and this came about naturally, but that question about your father really came from your cousin, Eric. And so I'm glad we were able to work that in, because your father, his uncle, would, just like you say, love to see what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And it's funny how little things like that you grow up and we're now men of a certain age.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the things that we learned as children, we're still doing today.
Yeah.
Right? So I appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah.
But,
Eric, man, come on, man. Yeah, I mean, my father's no longer here.
Yeah.
And he was a good dude, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now that you've interviewed friends, family, your wife, your son, colleagues, your pastor, are there any things that you've kind of learned from those interviews that that as a person sitting in this part of the couch has learned, just through that experience? Any kind of common themes that you've come up with?
Yeah, what I found is that, I'll answer it this way. What I've learned is that when people talk about themselves, not in a, like, there's no preparation for that, right? It's all about them sharing who they are and their story. And I've noticed that people, no matter how nervous they may have been up front, become comfortable, because I think once we start, they realize, hey, I'm just talking about me or what I know or my experiences, number one. I think number two, I think people really begin to realize as they talk that I've got a story to tell. And now I get an opportunity to do that here.
Right.
I actually might be able to help somebody. And it's just me talking about me, and in a very unselfish way, to the point where I've noticed that sometimes people get bold and they'll look at the camera and say, and you know what? You know what I mean? That's happened a few times where they start to realize that, hey, I have something valuable. I have something that I can share, and it's really cool to watch. And what I've also learned, that people that I thought I knew, there's way more there. And that's one of the really cool things about there's no prep. And I don't know if people know that. There is no prep. So I get to sit over there and hear the other person's story, which keeps curiosity in play.
Yeah, and I think that's the special sauce in this show, because not everybody can do that, right? But as you're asking questions of people and they're starting to pour out themselves to you, have you developed any kind of techniques as a host in how to draw that out? I mean, anything that you've learned from this experience that I see this works in terms of getting people to kind of open up?
Yeah, good question. I imagine the same way you prepared. It might be similar, but what I try to do is I try to learn just enough, because the reality is I don't need to be the expert as the person asking questions. I just need to understand them as best I can. So it's like, hey, maybe there's a few things you need to understand. I think and then I have questions and I have a flow, as if, what if the show only goes the way you exactly planned it? You have a plan. But what I've learned is you can't force it.
Right.
You have to allow the show to go in the direction that the person wants to take it, without losing what you want the show to be. Because people don't always know where we're going, and then they may answer it and take us a different road. So I have to be able to listen and be able to say, hey, I was going to ask these next 3 questions, but you know what? Wait a second, you just shared something. So I have to be willing to not overdrive where we're going, to allow the person, the guest, to take us somewhere and allow it to happen. But, if we're going to talk about, eagles, and they want to talk about crows, it's like, hey, how do we come back to eagles versus, crows? Shout out to all the Eagle fans. Yeah, that was
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Which is the whole thing now.
Yeah.
But I'm a lawyer. You're a guest host, but you're also you're a professional in sales.
Yes.
And you lead teams.
Yes.
I mean, do you find that your ability to ask questions and find out more about people and be curious about them has helped you in your job?
Oh my goodness. It is so here's what's funny. So storytelling is a big part. Like people say, I'm in sales. Well, really, you're telling a story about a service or a product or what have you. So your ability to tell that story, whether it's a long story or a short story, is huge. But whenever you're telling your story, it's about who the customer is, who is the end user. And in order for your story to be interesting to that person, you have to be able to ask questions so you can tell them the best story that they need to hear.
Yeah.
And that needs to be real. So, and authentic. And I knew that's what I wanted this show to be. I wanted to be real. I wanted to be authentic. And so curiosity, some people have. It's innate. They were born with it. And they're just, well, hey, how do you do this? What about that? Help me understand. Tell me more. You don't have to help them with that. There are others where I have to actually help people develop that ability, because it's like, hey, the more you understand your customer, just that ability is how you will be more successful. Some people have a natural inclination to do it, others don't. But the best people in sales can tell really good stories, and they're very curious about how their customer thinks and does what they do, and they'll ask questions and then figure out, oh, so this is what you do. This is why you do what you do.
But even before you can even get there and ask questions, you got to listen, right?
Oh.
Because it's easy to have conversations or be in a room and not really listen, and you're missing things, right? So, you know, when you talk about your listening skills, and one of the most interesting episodes that you had, of course, were the 2 episodes with your wife, right? And, you know, so listening and listening to her, right?
She's saying right now, I don't listen. She's saying, right? He doesn't listen.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? So, I mean, have your listening skills improved, or have you learned how to listen differently in ways that have improved in your personal life?
Yeah, I will admit, you know, so it's funny how relationships.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes
I can see you training. You're training right now. I know she's going to look, but you know, just come on, man.
Relationships, unfortunately, sometimes are the driver of how much you are willing to listen or not. So though in my professional life, it's always been about, I mean, we need workshops on listening.
Yeah.
And the different types of listening and how to do it better and all the techniques. I think it has improved. I think if she were sitting here, and she has, except I was over there, she would say that maybe it took him a little while, but he is a better listener, at least from a demonstrative standpoint, because of some of the things that I did over our lifetime together. But listening, man, nobody wants to listen.
Yeah.
I've, you know, obviously I haven't always wanted to listen either, but it's a choice. It's you have to decide that maybe the other person is interesting.
Yeah, and even if they're not interesting, you got to make it seem like they're interesting, right?
That's right. Especially if it's professional.
I'm not talking about doing your show. I'm talking about, you know, you have to go out and meet with customers all the time. You have to engage them.
That's right.
And you have to make them feel like they're important.
And that's the key word. The key word is you want your customer to feel like what they think and do is important. And guess what? It is.
Yeah. That's
the thing. Like in your personal life, the people you care about, how they feel, you want them to feel like they're important. So you should listen. Your customer, though there are things you need to achieve in your work, but if you're curious and you care and you're interested, you're going to connect with some people better because y'all could just connect. But it doesn't mean that you still can't take the time to listen.
But on the other side of that, right? On the other side of making other people feel comfortable. Yeah. I think part of your show and part of the kind of topics that you tackle, they are deep issues. It seems like you're almost putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation to have discussions about things that we don't necessarily want to address head on.
Well, I'll go back to the conversation I had with my wife. I had 2 of them.
Yeah.
And even she struggled with, are you sure you want me to come on the show?
Yeah.
And are you sure that you want me to answer in a way that all the vulnerabilities of men, all the decisions that you make, I'm going to use you as the example. And I'm okay with that, because I think that this show is about men. This show is about the things that we don't do and should do, and I'm guilty of it, and I'm open to it. I mean, listen, you brought up my father.
Right.
I didn't know that I was going to not be able to answer your question quick. I just didn't. So, and I want my guests to be the same way. It's like, hey, look, man, if we can help somebody, man, it's a ripple.
So are there any topics, I mean, I know you have a whole nother season coming up, but are there any topics from the first 2 seasons, we'll say, that have stayed with you? Like those episodes really touched you as a host. And if they touch you as a host, I'm sure they touch other people or resonate with other people. Are there any particular shows that did that? So,
you know, it's funny. So you mentioned what are some things that I've learned, and I answered it one way. I think this question is similar, and I'll tell you why. Because I can't tell you it's one particular show, but there's a common theme that really resonates with me, where people overcome circumstance. When whether it's something that happened to them, or it's something where, despite life, like you asked me, hey, how do you find time? Like someone who, despite the circumstance, they just pursue their passion. You know, they go after it, regardless of whether it was music, Iron Man, writing movies. You know, my son talked about his event and just feeling like he's glad it happened. I'm noticing that that people overcome despite the situation, and I think that's what I have gotten out of it, because it makes me say that whole pit bull faith thing. Like, yo, man, if they, when they were 18, decided to go after something, or they went through a marriage that was rocky and they held on, like you should be able to go after stuff. And I think that's what's helped me. You know what I mean? No matter how different the situations are, it's a common theme.
So I'm going to do something that I've seen you do on your shows, and say what you just talked about is something I have written down here. Because part of the themes that I've seen in your shows are stories of resilience, of overcoming things, but also pursuing your passion. Because, like you said earlier, if it's your passion, you'll find time to do it.
You will.
Right. And it's something that you've been doing very successfully. But in terms of the themes that you've heard from other people, have you learned anything about yourself during this process that you didn't necessarily know before?
It's funny. What I've learned about me is that some of the issues that I have or had were apparent. And what I mean by that is, as much as I would like to say I've watched how people have overcome and whatever, what I've found is that, yo, man, you want to help other people procrastinate, but guess what you do sometimes? You procrastinate. You don't always listen. You might be thinking, Greg, what are you talking about? There are times when I'm sitting over there and I have to fight. I want to ask you the next question that I have for you. And it's like, what are you doing? You need to slow down and listen and wait for it, because they're taking you somewhere. So I'm noticing that some of the things about me that are potential issues are real. You know what I mean? Like they're.
It's one thing to talk about them, but and that's what I mean by when you're talking to other people and asking questions, it shines. It's like a mirror of yourself. Like, okay, I'm talking about this, but I need to step back and figure out some things for myself to improve.
Like, Greg, like, are you really willing? Like, you were supposed to do X, and you're interviewing somebody who is doing it, and so I'm learning, but I'm also being inspired too, which is, I didn't expect that. Like, I thought that I'm going to do the show and highlight people. I didn't really know that I would be going on the ride too. Like I said earlier, I think I know someone and they tell me things, and then that makes me want to hear more. I end up watching the show like I wasn't on it.
Right.
It's the weirdest thing. I'm laughing. I'm getting pulled in. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
so we've talked about what you've learned in terms of themes from other people. We talked about what you may have learned about yourself during this process, and the value of asking questions and holding up that mirror to find out things about yourself through other people.
Yeah.
If you could, and this may be an unfair question, but if you're sitting here, and you're also sitting there, and you could ask yourself a question, if you can say, because we have ideas in our heads, we ask ourselves questions all the time. If you're willing, because I don't want to go too crazy, if you're willing, what will you ask yourself? Or maybe I could say, what will you ask your younger self? Or what will your younger self ask you? I just want to have you to have a quick conversation with yourself about, what am I doing? Like, what is this all about? What would you ask?
I would talk to myself about, literally, where am I going? And the reason why I say that is because I think I had a clear vision, and I talked about next season. But you know what I would ask myself?
What's that?
Where are you going to be in 5 seasons?
Okay.
And you talk about these other shows that you want to do and other things you want to do. When will they start? How will you bring all of that together? How does that fit your vision? What will you do differently? Learn with the things that you've learned about what it takes to get a guest, aligning schedules, doing things in the midnight hour and early around your job. You're doing it with one show. How are you going to do it with multiple projects? So I think what I would ask myself is, how willing are you to put in the work? And somebody be thinking, Greg, what are you talking about? It's because what I've learned is there's, especially the way I operate, it's a lot of work.
It is.
Putting this together the only way I know how to do it. So it's like, how are you getting yourself ready for what you're doing way out? Not just next season, not just, I got that.
Yeah.
But I need to minimize some of the things that I've run into when it comes to finding guests and coordinating schedules and having all my topics written out and all. Like, I need to do that better because I'm not retiring yet. So that's the kind of conversation I would like to have with me that I sort of have now, but it would force me to have clarity around it.
So the last little secret I want to tell you is that the question about your father came from your cousin.
Yeah.
That last question came from your wife.
Oh my.
So we were able to weave that in. I think that's the perfect way to end this. I appreciate you having the confidence in me to ask you questions, and I wish you the best of luck going forward. But this has been a great conversation. So,
hey man,
thank you.
Listen, Chris, I can't thank you enough, man, for you doing this. I think when I have been asked about what's my brother's keeper, how did it all start, knowing you, I knew you were the right person. I appreciate you saying yes. This has been pretty cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, hey, listen, everybody. This show was an opportunity to bring and share more about what my Brothers Keepers Lounge show is about. I hope it helped. This isn't everything that I've ever could have talked about, but I really wanted to answer some of the questions that people had about me and this show and what it's all about. Be blessed. See you next week.